Everybody good? Ready to roll? Good morning. So I want to start off saying how proud I am of this organization. The fact that we have built a culture that if there's something wrong, somebody will come forward with that information, or will stop it, as soon as it's going on, or stopping the progress of it happening. And in today's world, that's good to have people that are morally and ethically strong. They're not going to blow away in the wind and go with whatever way things are going. They're going to stand firm and have a backbone and say, this is wrong, I'm going to stop it. And that's exactly what happened. So Jennifer Lewis was a member of the Pasco Sheriff's Office from January 2016 to March of 2021. She was a child protective investigator. Her role was to protect children, like all of them. And that's probably one of the toughest roles in our organization, is what those women and men do in there, day in and day out, protecting those kids. And, major part of our job is to go out there and interview. To make sure, you are that decision. To make sure you go to a judge and say, the kid's safe, or to say the kid's not safe and we have to do something about it. That is absolutely critical. Jennifer Lewis failed in those responsibilities. On several occasions, she was out there and she had a trainee with her. And while she was out with the trainee, she was doing what was her role and responsibility. But what she was putting in a report was not accurate to what actually happened. And on 2 occasions, she said she actually met with people when she didn't. And so the trainee, about a month later, in March, started looking at those reports that Jennifer had written. And while she was reviewing them, she said, we were at this house, but we didn't talk to anybody. And on another occasion, they were at the house, but the CPI investigator, Jennifer Lewis, just put her card there. She didn't speak to anybody. But what she put in those reports reflected that she actually spoke to people, which is a lie. The trainee came forward and said to her supervisors, there's a problem here. This does not match up to what happened. And so that led to an investigation of major crimes. It followed the proper chain of command. That's how things are supposed to work. When something happens, supervisors get information, they forward a crime occurred, they forward to major crimes. The leadership in our CPI, Child Protective Investigation Unit, did the exact thing they were supposed to do. They forward to major crimes. Major crimes started confronting Jennifer Lewis, started just questioning her about these things. She resigned very quickly. She turned in her paperwork, she resigned. But that does not stop what we do as a sheriff's office. There was a potential crime that occurred, so we investigated. Our major crimes looked into it. They did what was right. As they were looking into it, they started working with the state attorney's office, with Bruce Bartlett's office, and making sure that everything was done properly. Everybody's rights were upheld. It came to a conclusion that 2 felony charges for falsifying and altering DCF reports were filed. So now Jennifer Lewis is charged with 2 felony counts. But the story does not stop there for us. We have to go back and we have to make sure that everything is done properly. So our child protective investigators went back and reviewed the current cases that Jennifer Lewis are working. There was 27 of them. They went back and reviewed all 27 cases. They didn't find any discrepancies, anybody being harmed. Well, not say discrepancies. Let me go back to take that back. There were some discrepancies that they were still reviewing, but as to people being harmed or anybody in danger, there was nobody being harmed or in danger. There's 27 cases. They then went back and did another step, and they reviewed 62 previous cases, and to make sure that nobody was in harm's way, that everybody was safe, and everybody was safe. So a couple of things I want to point out there. We go through training through Georgetown. It's called active bystandership. Active bystandership in law enforcement. That's a training where it encourages people to stand up and say something if there's something wrong. To come forward and be able to say, hey, look, there's something wrong. I'm morally called upon to say something about it. And not to say this training is what helped this trainee, but at the same time those are the things that we do as an organization going forward. The other one is, and it's not because of this case, we were already planning to do certain things, but we're piloting the body-worn cameras with our child protective investigators. The same way, we were the first, I think, in Tampa Bay to have body-worn cameras. It's been almost 6 years now. And it's that open, that partnership with our community that they recognize if we're wrong, we're wrong. If we're right, we're right. But it allows everybody to see what is going on. And so that's the one thing with the CPIs is that we started that body-worn camera because unfortunately, people do make false allegations against our CPIs. And so we want to make sure they are protected the same way our citizens are protected, and the same way we handle this Jennifer Lewis case. You know, we do have a quality assurance team, and it's interesting because one of the questions that can come up is, you know, why didn't quality assurance catch this? And they probably would have. They would have. But they go back every quarter and review the previous quarters to go back to see if there was any discrepancies, any issues. Well, you know, by the time the trainee got it to us so quickly, our quality assurance team wasn't able to go back because we had got it basically firsthand very quickly, that information. So we do have a quality assurance team that is in place. You know, those are the type of things I want to make sure that people are aware of, is that along the way there are catch programs. There's a safety net there. And the thing was, it didn't get in the safety net because the trainee came forward right away. So I go back and I applaud our child protective investigators. I applaud the culture we've built in the Pasco Sheriff's Office, is that the trainee had the courage to come forward and say, there's a problem here. You know, that is a great thing. Somebody new, somebody who probably, you know, just finding their way, finding out where the exit door is, you know, is now, you know, able to stand up and say, there's a problem here. You know, to have that courage, I applaud that culture is in place. I applaud that trainee for doing what she did. You know, at the same time, I encourage everybody in this organization, anywhere, if there's any problems, any concerns, you come forward. And then I applaud our leadership, because they did what was expected of them. They notified major crimes. Major crimes gets involved when they believe a potential crime was involved. And then from there, major crimes goes to the state attorney's office after their investigation and works with Bruce Bartlett's office. So the process worked. Unfortunately, we have people that are human beings, and they fault. But we can't fault when it comes to children. We can't fault when it comes to protecting our community. We can make honest mistakes, but you can't do things purposely that could put people in harm's way. And that's one thing this Pasco Sheriff's Office will not stand for. So is that, are there any questions, any concerns, anything I can answer?
Sheriff, when was she taken into custody, and is she still in custody?
She was taken into custody the other afternoon. I think it was Friday afternoon, but I'll let Detective Harris.
So the culmination of the investigations, as the sheriff referred to, there was 2 warrants that were issued. She was contacted and turned herself in. That was on, I believe, Saturday? Friday afternoon. And obviously, you know, she's going through the court process now as far as dealing with the warrants.
Any indications of why she did this? Did she give any explanation?
No, no.
And Sheriff, you indicated that she had been with the Sheriff's Office for more than 5 years. Is there any indication that there was a pattern of behavior? Because this, you know, I mean, this was reported because she was working with someone. Yeah. How many times was she working by herself?
And that's the thing. That's why we went back to previous cases. That's why you go back, you know, not just the 27 she had been working, but you went back to 62 previously. So we were going back following to see if there's any patterns there. And, you know, there was nothing that showed up in those cases. You know, they went back and they interviewed people, said, hey, she said she talked to you. Did she talk to you? So those are those type of things. Now, there was other cases that we're still looking at and still reviewing to see if there's criminal allegations involved, but we wanted to make sure, the first priority is to make sure that she didn't say that, no, I didn't check on these kids and they're okay, but meanwhile they are in harm's way. There was no situations that we found in such way. So, but what we want to do is make sure that, you know, going back to the previous ones to see if there was any patterns, but there was nothing there that showed anything that, you know, anybody's in harm's way. They go back to, there were other cases that we have to keep reviewing to see if the state wants to prosecute on. But the biggest thing was we want to make sure there was no children that were being harmed that we could have saved, but there's no indications there were.
Do you think this sends a strong message to other members that, you know, you're not going to put up with this?
I think consistently since May of 2011, we've sent that strong message that, you know, we will not tolerate those, you know, that commit a crime, that we will hold people accountable. We will hold ourselves accountable more than the community. And it doesn't matter how much people come after us. It doesn't matter how many times those individuals will say anything about this organization. You know, the thing is, we document it. We have things that, you know, we held up on. And as, you know, I go back to it, I'm very proud of this organization. We have, you know, said that we will be moral and ethically correct in all that we do. And I say this, we're human beings. None of us walk on water. We make mistakes. But at the same time is, if you do something that harms this community, we're not going to stand up for that. That's not the respect our citizens, you know, deserve. That's not what they get. At the same time, they have to have the trust at 2 o'clock in the morning when we knock on that door, we're there for a righteous reason. You know, they have to understand that we are there to protect and serve them. And I go back to it. You know, for the past several years, we've been through a lot. At the same time, we've held up because we had that backbone. We've done what was right. And no matter what was criticized about us, the courts have shown we are correct in everything that we do.
There have been some high-profile cases where children have fallen through the cracks in other places, and bad things happen. Is that kind of the ultimate fear? It may seem simple that of what she did, but is that what the real worry is, that a child could fall through the cracks and bad things could happen?
Yeah, so every life, means something. Every life has meaning to it, and so that the biggest fear is that. That's why we went back to check those investigations, because God forbid there was one that she said she knocked on the door and that child's being harmed. God forbid something happened to one of those kids because she didn't do what was right. So that's why we wanted to go back, because every life does matter, and especially those kids. There's kids that, many of us have been blessed to live in great families, have parents, grandparents, guardians that stand over us and protect us. There are some children that are born in horrific situations, and they're surviving on their own at 5 years old. We wanted to make sure that if we ever got caught out those situations, that 5-year-old little kid is going to be safe because the Pasco Sheriff's Office is there. And that's why we went back to review those cases, because those CPIs, child protective investigators, do not get enough credit for what they do. Day in and day out, they protect those kids. There's nobody else to protect them but them, the guardian ad litems, those individuals that will stand up for them. And so that's why we want to make sure that those kids were being protected. And if Jennifer Lewis wasn't going to do it, the rest of the CPI, child protective investigation unit, was going to go back, follow back to make sure that all those kids are safe.
And you said all CPIs are going to have cameras?
We're testing them right now. We're going through the process. There's 49 out there. We're testing them right now with the child protective investigators. As long as the testing, everything goes through, we'll have body-worn cameras on the street.
Sheriff, I've covered a lot of stories about these CPIs having a really, really big workload and caseload. Is it possible that she was overworked?
People can say they were overworked, but at the same time, as you handle every case, you take one case at a time. And if you are overworked, you can't handle it, you go back to your supervisor and say, hey, I could not get to these cases because I'm handling this one case. It's very intensive. Let me handle this one case. That's in our organization, whether it be in the law enforcement bureau, no matter what bureau you're in, if you're overworked, you say, hey, this is really important. It's taking a lot more time. I can't get to these. Don't just, pencil whip something and say, I went there, or leave a card and say I spoke to somebody, because your workload's so high. That's the last thing I would expect you or any citizen to ever say. If God forbid one of these kids were hurt, we said, oh, well, their workload was too high, so that child got hurt. We're never going to allow that to happen. We don't want that to happen. We hope this sends a message to everybody to realize if you can't get to that case, we'll get somebody else there. But the cases that you're on, handle them correctly, handle them thoroughly, because that child deserves it.
You mentioned leaving the business card rather than speaking to someone. Do you know if she was supposed to speak to a parent that day, the child? I'm just looking for...
I'm not sure if at that point if she was supposed to speak to the child or speak to a parent, but when we went back and did interviews and they saw video, she just drops a card off but then writes in a report that she spoke to somebody.
Sheriff, you mentioned these are felony charges. Will her mugshot be available?
No, she's a former member, so protected. Yeah, it's protected under state statute.
No, you just had a 2019 that you released her mugshot, so I just...
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay.